look at the principal sacrifices that Tulsi Gabbard, who was supposed to be a woman of honor, who I still respect because she did serve our country, but here's somebody who, one of the founding principles of anti-authoritarianism is protecting your civil liberties. And this idea that you are going to cave now on surveillance because you want that job, because we all know Tulsi's going to run for president one day. Again, keep forgetting she ran in 20. This is where the cost of ambition and not trusting your ability to lead a movement gets you into significant trouble. I think what Tulsi is doing is absolutely disgusting. There's a lot of things I've disagreed with, but this in particular is really, really bad. And somebody like yourself, who is a huge supporter of civil liberties, I have no doubt has probably upset you quite a bit too.
Yeah, I've met Tulsi in multiple occasions, and I was such a fan. You know, it's just, she has such a presence about her.
She does. She does.
Just, yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I was just enamored with her, which I just said, well, coming on the show, that we shouldn't be enamored with anyone, right? So for me, the point I want to make is, like, I was so in love, you know, that, oh my gosh, Tulsi can pretty much do no wrong. And then she goes on and says that this FISA warrant, you know, well, I guess I can compromise on this. And that just made me fall so out of love. I hope that she said it to get the job, and that is the case. But the fact that she said it and went back on her principles, like, what's the point of having a job if your principles are so wishy-washy? What's the point of putting you in this position if you're just going to cave to make something easier for you? Get the job by standing on your principles. Oh, you didn't get the job? Then you know what? Keep standing on your principles. This whole, well, you know, well, I guess not. Sorry, Tulsi. I mean, it was like an off switch. It's like, poof, done.
Yeah. I find this very disappointing, but I also see it as she was the one person that I started saying that I didn't think would get confirmed. I didn't think they would confirm her. And this is probably her response to the fear of not being able to get confirmed on anything she's ever said in the past. So, but like you just said, what is the point of you being there if you're just falling in line? Then that defeats the whole purpose of having you in that. But this is horrifying.
Yeah, yep. And perhaps maybe the best colleague that Massey had in the GOP delegation, who unfortunately is not in Congress anymore, Justin Amash, who is libertarian and he's Palestinian. The worst part of Tulsi's flip-flop on FISA is that the intel community will use her false epiphany on the subject to market it to skeptics. Make no mistake, FISA 702 allows the FBI, NSA to unconstitutionally collect and search the communications of Americans without warrant. As if we are not already at that stage, but it's just seemingly gotten that much worse.
Yep, we've been at this stage since the Patriot Act. We didn't even need this. We have had this for so long, and maybe even before then. I mean, the Patriot Act is just when they shoved it down our throats and we're like, here you go. So, I mean, gosh, what a terrible position to be in. And people are still like, oh, this new administration is going to be so great. They're going to change the world. And it's like, as opposed to the previous ones that have done, like, they all say that they're going to protect us, and then they don't. And so I was a little bit hopeful at the beginning when we saw Tulsi and RFK and all of these people, and it was like the Justice League. And it's like, well, you know, I don't get excited for things, but this is pretty exciting. And then they let us down. It's like, well, here we go again. Where are we going from here, and why? And, you know, the deep state isn't going to eliminate themselves. And if they got somebody like her,
that's why I didn't think she would get, that's why I didn't think she would otherwise get approved, you know, but the biggest problem I see, and this is, and look, whether or not I like or don't like Trump, it's irrelevant. He did campaign on this. I'm ending the wars. I'm going to end the wars. I'm going to fix this mess. But yet every single person that he's appointed is a neocon war hawk Zionist. So I don't see how you can then,
except for Kash Patel, there are a few. There are a few.
All right, because
but I don't know that Kash Patel will get confirmed either, because you know he's kind of on the right team, and that's difficult. So, you know, time will tell is all I think at this point. Time will tell. And I hope that this buys us enough time and enough information to share with people and be like, this is why we can't fall in love. And this is why we must actually find out what they're talking about and what they're supporting, and then to make the decisions there. Because at the end of the day, again, they're just politicians. They get paid to do this. They're like influencers on steroids. This is what they're getting paid for, and they want to continue to get paid for. You like, they're not going to
Yeah.
just give up that grift.
No.
And it
Not at
pays.
all.
And they get all these fancy dinners. I mean, I hope to be going to DC in a little bit. You should see the cost of all these inaugural balls and all these things. And they get free tickets and they get their names splashed everywhere and people throwing money at them. I mean, it's like a strip club minus them taking off their clothes.
Okay,
Oh,
so
and
if we're
like,
gonna-
thank God for that.
yeah. Well, listen.
Thank
if we're
God,
gonna
yes.
Well, if we're going to go there, then at least share with you our mutual friend Luke Rakowski. You guys were at Mar-a-Lago. It was a really great opportunity for you to join me in my palatial palace. So why don't you share it with everybody what it's like to be at the White House South?
Oh my God, it is such a beautiful building. I have to say that I got there and I was like, you know, I've never been a Trump supporter. I supported him this time over his promise to free Ross Ulbricht. You guys know that that's one of these issues that I've been just pushing for the longest time. Ross Ulbricht's mother, Lynn, is a dear friend of mine. And, you know, this is a case where he deserved to be out of jail and not die in prison, which is the sentence that he. So for that reason and that reason alone, I supported Trump. And I got invited to Mar-a-Lago and I was like, "Eee." It is the most gorgeous place I've ever been. It is exactly what you would imagine. The bathrooms have gold everything. I mean, it's just spectacular. They invited us for a movie, and we watched the movie. I was 3 rows behind Trump, and yeah, I was, you know, it was like pretty cool. Just like in terms of that's the next president of the United States, regardless
Yeah.
of who he is, and I'm 3 rows behind that amount of power was a pretty cool thing. Now, I think what people would be surprised to know about these things is how much money people pay to get into it. So a lot of people take pictures at Mar-a-Lago and look, I got invited. No, you didn't. You didn't just get invited because you're like super awesome. People
You
paid a lot of
donated.
money. Yeah, you
Yeah.
either donated or somebody else donated on your behalf. We got invited by, very generously by Latino Wall Street. And so we got this amazing invite. I mean, y'all know Luke and I were not about to pay to go to this thing, but it is, you know, it's a great time. It's a lot of politicking. It's the same as going to these galas. You see the inner workings of the beast and how this works. And to gain access, you spend a lot of money, a lot of money. And that is how you get access to politicians. And that is why they do what you want. If you want your issue heard before these politicians, you give them a boatload of money and then they give you a few minutes of their time and you tell them, sir, blah, 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 blah. I'd like you to, I don't know, advocate for Bitcoin, or I'd like for you to advocate for, in my case, free Ross, or I'd like for you to advocate for whatever. And then they take up your cause because you paid them enough money and they take it up. So I think that, you know, when you get to see behind the ropes and you get to see that the emperor wears no clothes, it's definitely an interesting perspective. I posted about being excited about being there, and you should see how much hate I got, especially from
I'm sure.
libertarians. They're like, you shouldn't be happy to be there in the belly of the beast. It's like, but I am. Like, here's this little Miami girl of immigrant parents, like, you know, and I made it to the White House of the South. Like, I'm sorry, this is pretty cool. I can still hold Trump accountable and say most of the things he's talking about these days, like taking over the Panama Canal is just, yeah, no, can we not?
Or Greenland. How about Greenland? Did you know that we could just go take that? Like, you know, regardless of whether or not people like him, he does just talk so much shit. Like that this is without
Or the Gulf of Mexico is now the Gulf of America. I mean, come
as
on.
if he could do that, you know, but I mean, isn't that ridiculous?
The whole thing is ridiculous, honestly. I mean, and this is just more stuff that's dividing us. Here we are complaining, you know, we're taking time to talk about how we're going to take over Greenland or how we're going to take over the Panama Canal, which should have never been turned back in the first place. It was our agreement. Like, what? You
Yeah.
know, just because you build it. China's been building roads all around the planet. Does that mean the entire planet now belongs to China? Actually, it probably does, because this is the same thing America has done for years. It's the term is economic hitman. But in China's case, instead of dropping bombs, they've been building infrastructure, which makes people like them a whole lot more than they like the U.S.
Especially Africa.
Oh,
And
yeah.
And I will tell you, there's something to be said for how we deal with China going forward. Because if the instinct is to try to saber rattle them, as Trump has shown. Let me tell you, they have our balls in a vice right now that I don't think people truly understand. If the indications of what had happened when we threw sanctions from President Blinken, not President Biden, and we know that Kamala wasn't the president either, when you start doing things like that and it doesn't affect Russia, what do you think is going to happen if you try it with China that really has an economic infrastructure? So the whole concept of BRICS, I think, is a very big deal. I don't think people are truly embracing it the way that they should. I think that our country needs to get serious about how we deal properly with this problem. And so
why is it a problem?
It's a problem because we are going to facilitate our own demise by thinking that the way that you deal with BRICS is to basically shoot bullets at it. That's not
right. But I mean, I don't view BRICS in general as a problem. BRICS isn't a problem.
BRICS is a problem for our economic opportunity.
BRICS might be a problem for capitalist imperialists, but BRICS is not a problem.
Might be a problem for our dollar.
It might be.
Yep.
And that will be what we have coming, because that's the natural and logical consequences of bullying the whole world for decades. So I don't view it as a problem as much as I view it as that's just what we're dealing with right now. And good for them, because we have sanctions on like 100 and something countries, and the rest of the world is sick of being brutally sanctioned by us, and they want to trade in their own currency. Go figure.